To ascertain whether a plane of the magnitude as is shown in video hitting the towers could actually pierce the steel of the towers requires considerable understanding of scientific principles. Although I am not going to pretend to have the world's foremost understanding of physics, I find the following explanations to be quite sound and encourage any and all rebuttals to what is covered. In support of their case, the no-planers tender a seemingly airtight argument that we ought to see some sort of plane debris upon impact. Can an airplane just travel through steel girders without there being some sort of debris left outside the building? First, let's examine the following footage to see if we might draw any parallels to what should have occurred at the towers.
The aircraft is in takeoff condition at full gross weight, with landing gear down and flaps retracted. The nose wheel has been replaced by a slipper which slides in a single-track guide rail. The aircraft is accelerating to a takeoff speed of 139 knots under its own power. Close scrutiny of this test is possible through the use of many motion picture cameras at different locations, most of them recording the action at 20 times normal camera speed. And here is the action as seen from the front. The initial barriers destroy the propellers. Separate the landing gear. Wrench the engines from their mounts and start engine fires. The pole impact yaws the aircraft. There is a glancing contact with the left wing. The aircraft is pitched up, and the fuselage, weakened by the propeller, fails. There is severe crash impact on the second hill. And here is a detailed view of the right wing. The 12-inch telephone pole cuts off the outer panel, but the heavier inboard section breaks off a larger 13-inch telephone pole. The basic wing structure remains intact.
As one can clearly see in this clip, although the inner part of the wing shears off one telephone pole, the tip of the plane's wing is destroyed upon impact with the other telephone pole. Seems like pretty convincing proof against an idea of them cutting or plowing through steel girders, right?
And here is a detailed view of the right wing. The 12-inch telephone pole cuts off the outer panel, but the heavier inboard section breaks off a larger 13-inch telephone pole.
Many of the opponents of the no-plane theory will cite videos such as this one, where a plane cuts through a 13-inch telephone pole made out of wood, and then say a bigger plane going faster can cut through a 24-inch I-beam made out of structural steel. Obviously, people these days don't appreciate how strong structural steel really is. As you can see here, this little bit of steel can stop a truck at full speed. The problem we have is scale. 9/11 was so huge that people just buy into the cover story because they can't wrap their minds around what really happened. So imagine we reduce every factor involved by 10. Instead of a 110-story building, we have an 11-story building. And instead of a jumbo jet, we have something like a bus with wings. Would a bus flying through an 11-story building like the World Trade Center at 500 miles an hour cause it to collapse and turn into dust? That's what we're going to find out. Could we drive a bus through the lobby and expect it to go through the outer I-beams, the inner core, the steel girder floors, and then still come out the other side?
We don't see any part of the airplane breaking, bending, buckling, twisting, or slowing down. It's unphysical. Ignoring the airplanes, the official 9/11 videos looked like this. They make much more sense with the airplane removed. We see a tower exploding. The wall doesn't break inwards, it explodes outwards. Animating a shattering, exploding airplane is nearly impossible, while disappearing an airplane is easy. They needed to show the airplane videos quickly. 2. Penetration. They needed us to believe the planes went completely inside the towers, so that we could believe there was massive damage to the central core. Engineers and computer scientists at Purdue University created this animation of the plane crashing into the North Tower.
All the animated geometry seen here was created automatically from the simulation output data.
If someone were to want to duplicate your results, are those data available, or can you make them available? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a cheesy answer. I can't duplicate my own results, however, because they're sensitive.
Repeated emails and phone calls to the Purdue scientists requesting the simulation data and requesting a high-quality, unedited copy of the animation have been ignored. A growing number of people could not believe this was a gravity-driven collapse. Aman Zafar took this series of still photos from across the Hudson River. The building appears to systematically disintegrate into an expanding cloud of dust, a dust tsunami.
Where'd it go? Where are the towers? This is Hiroshima. A few days before Hiroshima, would anyone have imagined this? Just everything gone.
Dr. Wood documented phenomena so unusual, she had to coin new terms like dustification.
So what about the dust? There was a lot of dust. As it happens, here is Tower 1 and Tower 2. A large portion of it filled New York, filled the air, went everywhere. And it looks pretty uniform in size, except for the paper. Landed on the fruit. It's like a fresh snow. Here's a view from the north. What covered the wheat checks was aluminum cladding, which you can see those pieces falling off, but they don't trail dust. But the steel wheat checks trail dust. This is an interesting. This is a rather large wheat checks falling here with dust shooting out behind it. Is the building just turning to dust? Why? This is Tower 2, closer to the ground. Do you see any solid pieces of building coming down? I don't. I see aluminum cladding falling, but the rest is this type of dust. Here are 4 consecutive shots, and you can see these columns just turn to dust. Here's a video clip, and you can watch this turn to dust. So is this what happened to the entire building? Perhaps. Let's look at it a little bit more carefully. These core columns that were left standing for whatever reason, are strong and rigid. That's a very tall, unsupported column. And the next frame, it starts to tip, and then it turns to dust before it even tips over.
See that stuff he's pulling out? What was that, Chief? We're gonna hold off on the water. See the stuff he's pulling out? Yeah. It's red hot.
Another interesting phenomenon is toasted cars. Large number of toasted cars. I don't mean just a few burnout cars. I mean this weird things happening that don't make sense. After Tower 1 was destroyed, that's the second tower that was destroyed, suddenly these cars were on fire. There's mountains of paper in between, large volumes of paper that didn't burn. Why are these cars over here on fire where nothing between the tower and the car is? This is West Broadway. So what happened on that street? Here's a top view of that same street. This aggressive cloud looks like it did something unique, because all the vehicles along this street were toasted. Makers Trust across the street had some interesting events occur. This building, according to FEMA, had no fires in it. What happened to this beam? That's not from a mechanical overload. This was a horizontal beam supporting the floors. Why would it shrivel up that way, like you would curl a ribbon for a package?
A chemical signature of nuclear fusion is tritium, the radioactive isotope of hydrogen. Tritium levels 55 times higher than normal were found in the sewer water below ground zero.
There was a weapon in play that day that I don't even know what it is, but I can equate it to being like a microwave. You know how you can take a piece of chicken and put it on a paper plate and stick it in the microwave and the chicken will burn, but the paper plate won't?
Yes.
Well, something happened that day equivalent to a microwave.
Ground Zero fumed for over 100 days through rainstorms, freezing temperatures, and constant watering. Judy Wood identifies the effect as ongoing molecular dissociation. Imagining that a skyscraper or any object can crush itself into dust under its own weight is cartoon physics.
Several other people keep asking us, when you look at where the towers used to stand, there is surprisingly so little rubble. Where did all the rubble go?
It's a very good question, Peter, and I have asked some people who've been doing some of the rescue and recovery work this morning. If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlinski, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized, evaporated.
It just blew up, a big explosion, people started running, it was just chaos everywhere.
No second plane, it was a bomb. Bombed another building, not second plane. That was a bomb. Who said the second plane?
That's what we're told, the second plane. We saw it on television.
I saw everything.
All right, thanks a lot. The first one went off, and then 10 minutes later, this just blew up out of nowhere.
Tell me about that plane.
Well, I didn't recognize it as a plane at first. I had thought that there was an explosion from within the Trade Center.
From my perspective, I didn't know that it was an airplane that hit the building. I still thought it was a bomb, and everything I saw told me it was bombs in the building.
And there is the very interesting case of David Hanshew. Mr. Hanshew is a professional photographer for the New York Daily News. He took a famous photo of the South Tower right after United 175 supposedly flew right into this wall.
I was underneath it. I was looking at the tower. I had my camera in my hand. I heard the noise. I never saw the airplane. I was less than 100 yards away from the building. I was standing on West Street.
He had this view. Each image in the flight path is separated by 1 second. David Hanshew would have been able to see the plane for at least 6 seconds. He would have been able to hear it coming for considerably longer than that.
I had no idea what it was, and then the South Tower just exploded. It just blew up.
It just blew up, a big explosion.
Bombed another building, not second plane.
I had thought that there was an explosion from within the Trade Center.
News reporters at the scene also seem to have missed the plane.
The building's exploding right now! I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
News anchors watching monitors were quick to correct them.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
It's easy to see how the television audience could be fooled. And a lot of eyewitnesses could be manufactured, scripted actors, shills.
I saw this plane come out of nowhere and just scream right into the side of the Twin Tower, exploding through the other side. And then I witnessed both towers collapse, one first and then the second, mostly due to structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
There was a weapon in play that day that I don't even know what it is, but I can equate it to being like a microwave. You know how you can take a piece of chicken and put it on a paper plate and stick it in the microwave and the chicken will burn, but the paper plate won't?
Yes.
Well, something happened that day equivalent to a microwave.
The towers didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground. They turned into dust in midair, midair, midair.